What's up, everybody? A Sparrow with a Gun here from Sleepless Nights with another episode on the Space Engineers Let's Build. I'm trying to move without my jetpack. That doesn't work very well. When we left off in the last episode, we were working on the bottom layer of our Shadowbound capital ship, and I actually had a bit of a mixed reaction, more so than I expected. Oops, wrong button. This one. That's the one I wanted. So again, we were down here on the bottom layers, and as you can tell, each one kind of has their own thing, their own different spin on the lower hull. The top part's all the same. The first one, I suppose is the first one anyway, was kind of the mirror-ish, though it's not a perfect mirror, because the taper is slightly more shallow, and then it kind of juts down a little bit more. This has a bit of the top part has a bit of a smoother transition. The second one was getting rid of the horizontal taper and just bringing it down at an even angle all the way down. And then the last attempt was essentially just a flat bottom. Now, each one of them kind of had their own strengths and weaknesses. The bottom one obviously would work best, or the flat bottom one would obviously work best for the ventral hanger that we were talking about putting in here. Though, it was pointed out to moi in the comments that if I went with this one, it might actually be a little bit easier than even this style, the uniform taper, because this one has kind of this ridge every few blocks, whereas we could isolate the ventral hanger to be right here. Which is an option. It would be slightly smaller, I believe, than how we had it laid out here. Let's just confirm that theory before I misspeak. So it would be a 17-ish, basically a 15 to 17 block, depending on where I counted the doors. And if I did here, edge to edge would only be 11, unless I somehow finagled with this and shortened it a little bit. Though I suppose that's possible. Where would it actually be if I took it out to 17? Let's see. So right about there? No, that would be 19. So this one, so we'd have to go down one row, I think. Where am I at? There I am. 15. So a 15 block hanger would essentially, all we'd have to do is cut this top layer off. That's really all we'd have to do, is just snip it right there. And we could basically shave off as many layers as we needed to make it a little bit wider. Which brings me to an interesting idea that I had. Because I really, honestly, if I'm being 100% honest, I really expected more people to go for the uniform. I feel like it had the nicer balance between having a nice even taper, so it wasn't just flat, but also being able to work with it and do a little bit more customizing. However, I was very surprised to hear that most everybody in the comments anyway was going either with the flat bottom or the mirror. If I understood the comments correctly, I labeled them as kind of mirror, uniform, flat, and I was getting like 1, 2, 3, so I'm kind of transposing the numbers there. But I think everybody was kind of going for this one or the flat one. In comparison to the two, I would prefer this one, just because I think it has a little bit more style to it than just being a flat edge. The only thing that I really don't like about it is, I know everybody seemed to be okay with it, but when we had this nice even taper here, let me actually put the sun on a side angle here so we can see it a bit more clearly. This has a nice even slope pretty much all the way down. And then on the bottom, it has a nice even slope, and then it kind of... I can't help but see it as a beak. It just looks like a beak to me. And I can't get that imagery out of my head, and I don't like it. So, what I think I might do is we're going to leave this one here as a backup, right? So we're going to copy this over, and we'll go a little bit higher. I keep kind of going up higher, and that way I know the lower models were the previous versions, kind of thing. It's just a way that I keep track of it. And what I think I'm gonna do is I'm actually going to cut the bottom off entirely and mirror this, kind of like what we did before, only I'm gonna mirror the entire thing. And all I'm gonna do is snip off this top layer here, that would... Well, actually, no, I don't even have to do that. What I'll probably do is copy this again, cut out the middle layer, and then duplicate the top part. And then basically remove the bottom layer here, and then this will just snap to that. And that would basically be a perfect one-to-one. Whereas instead of doing this and then this kind of being a little bit slightly more shallow, you can tell by the red block there, it'll basically be completely mirrored. But then what I think I'm going to do is, with it completely mirrored, I'm going to shave off a couple of these top layers, maybe 2, to give us a little bit of a wider hanger that would essentially line up with the middle one there. So I think I'm going to work on that for a second, and then we can really get going, because I kind of have to get that out of the way first. Alrighty, so there's the finished product. Well, I say theirs, and you can't really see it that well. Let me get the sun around here. That works. So there's the finished product. Let's get out of here. I'm stuck. Okay. So technically... No, that's the bottom still. So technically that is the bottom. So this would be what it would look like, which is a bit more uniform. And like I said, now the next step will be to take a couple layers off the bottom. And then compare this version to the other one that we have down there. Overall, I'm not sure. I do think I like it. It does look a little bit taller or fatter vertically fat, whatever you want to call it. It will make it a little bit easier to work on in the future, just because it's, you know, more uniform, and it does give us a little bit more space internally. So that's another thing to keep in mind, because it's actually a little bit higher. Now, I'm not too concerned about actually moving the thing at the moment, so we can go ahead and get rid of all this. Oops, didn't mean to do that in that order. And let's go ahead and kind of connect those, and then we can get rid of that. Perfect. All right, now we're good to go. Okay, so let's see here. Let me readjust my lighting again. There we go. So this is gonna be the bottom, and we'll really only be able to tell once I make the marks for the okay, so if I took off 2 layers, we'd be left with a 19 block wide, but more than likely a 17 block accessible hanger, because I'd probably want to leave 1 row as a connection point. So let's go ahead and do that. Now, if I've done my math right, that's 1, that's 2, so we want to leave this one, so it should be this layer right here. So we'll grab that corner point and bring it up. Hopefully we have enough blocks. I found that somewhere around 1,000 blocks or more, it starts kind of freaking out and can't figure out what it wants to do. Alright, so there's that. Now, from here, we'll grab this and we'll just fill all this in. Like so. So now, like I said, from this point here, we can do like this. Perfect. So, we can actually cut out like here, or I don't know if I want to go all the way to the back or not. Maybe for now, let's take it out to about here, and we'll stop a couple blocks back. This is 1, 2, let's do 3. The reason I do that, I like leaving odd numbers, because then if you want to put something in the middle of a section, you can do it that way. So, in fact, let's actually put that back and we'll cut this out. And it's difficult to see what's going on because unfortunately the red blocks don't show up very well, but there's that, so we can use that as a metric. And let's see where we're at here. Alright, so that would basically be our hangar area. Like I said, we might end up adding another row around here of something, maybe angled blocks that are inset a little bit, so that it looks... Ooh, that would actually look kind of cool. I don't think I want to do it right here, but let's actually try this. Since this won't really take much to do, I would normally be concerned about spending too much time on this if I wasn't really sure that this was the model we were going to use, but this is really quick to do. You can just kind of throw this together relatively easily. So I'm not as worried about it if we don't end up using this particular hull design. There we go. So something like that. Doesn't have to be exact, but something to that effect. Now, a couple of people have mentioned, will it be open? Will it be sealed? Blah, 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 blah. I'm thinking it'll have to be open because I really don't want to use mods if I don't have to, and the only way I know to seal something, an opening this large, would be with modded blocks like either shields or something like that. So I'm guessing the hangar will have to be some kind of depressurized area. I'm not really sure. So that's kind of the idea that I was thinking of. Again, it's a little bit on the fatter side on the bottom. Originally the taper was supposed to be a little bit thinner. Now, it is theoretically possible that we could change this taper a little bit, but I think that might be getting into a bit more work than I really want to put into it. So what I'm going to do is make a duplicate of this and put it next to the, what I'm calling the beak-nosed one, and basically compare them. Alright, so there you go. Next to each other, that's about what they look like. Now, like I said, it's very obvious where the differences lie. I mean, you can see the much more shallow taper here, and then it kind of juts in. This one has a much more uniform because it's basically the top one. I personally really like the underbelly look of this. When you're down looking at it like this, I think this looks pretty cool. Like I said, my biggest problem with this one was just the disconnect between the two angles. I don't like that as much. It does make it a little more shallower on the let me see if I can get the nautical term right. The draft or the keel makes it a little bit shallower, I think. But I don't know. I think I like that one better over there. Let's compare also from the back. Hopefully I can get the light over there, if it's not already. Oh, that's not a bad one. So again, as you can see, this over here makes this part a lot more shallow because it's not as far. This makes it a little bit more uniform, but also a little bit more square. This makes it a bit more flat. So like I said, it's there. Now, there is another thing we could do with this. If you guys really like this style, I can't stop apparently. If you guys really like how this is not as tall on the side. Most of you guys have been saying bigger, better, more room, essentially, which I'm inclined to agree with. But if it was really like, I like how this is a little less tall, you know, kind of thing, not quite so drastic, what we could always do is kind of do what we did here. We could kind of take this and shave off some of the top part and make it a little flatter on the top to kind of compensate for this over here. And if we did that, I'm not entirely sure that we would need quite as much of a taper. I'm not sure. I think it's kind of time to move on, though. I think we're about at a point where it's time to just move on and settle on a design, and I really think I'm going to go with this one just because it's more uniform, it fits a little bit better, it flows a little more with the original concept, and we're still able to get a nice hangar door kind of thing in here. So I think if there's no drastic objections, I'm pretty sure this is what I'm going to end up going with. With that said, we'll probably start working on something that I could translate over, like the bridge or the back half or something that's not really going to matter which one it's fitted to, if that makes sense. Maybe even the hangar. Maybe we'll work on the hangar for now. I don't know. I haven't decided yet. A couple of things I wanted to go over, though. Let me get the sun around here so we can get it from another angle, too. A couple of people had mentioned about kind of what's the purpose of the ship, so on and so forth. I've said it a couple of times, but just in case it's still not very clear, the purpose of this particular ship was to be featured in Dog Squad Season 2. It's designed as the... a little bit of a spoiler alert, but it's not really. It's designed for the, air quote, villains of the season, you might say. So it's that's partially why I picked a Star Destroyer as a base concept design, and then extrapolated from there was because you know, can't go wrong with making your villain ship out of a Star Destroyer. It's a Star Destroyer. As for some of the other ships, there was one that I did a long time ago. I don't know if it will be still functional or not, because it used a lot of mods, and there's been enough patches for the game. Most of those are probably broken. So my original Star Destroyer design from way back in the day, that one, I don't know if it'll ever hit the workshop or not. I'd have to load it back up and check, and I've been really, really busy to do that. The other thing is, will these go up on the workshop? Yes. Yes, they will. I might at some point do a modded version for like Let's Plays and things like that, but for the Machinima series of Dog Squad, I wanted to keep it kind of vanilla as much as possible to avoid having to get permissions and things to use it in a series like that. So that's why I'm kind of trying to keep it modless, for the most part, anyway. There's a couple exceptions, but for the most part I'm going to try and do it that way. So yeah, there's that. But yes, I do intend to put all these, any of the builds featured in the Let's Build series onto the workshop when they're finished. And because, yeah, that way you guys can play around with them. So, we're running a bit high on time for not having made a whole lot of progress this episode. I did want to answer a couple of those questions, though, because they've been kind of popping up here and there. I'm thinking I'm going to start working on the back of this. And I'm going to do that because I'm pretty sure, like I said, unless there's any drastic, you know, like everybody hates the design or something, I think I'm going to end up going with this one. So let me work on the back a little bit. I might cut a little just so that we can save some time. Okay, so stuff has been done, progress has been made, speed bumps have been run into. So I started working on trying to do the back thruster type things. This is what I have so far, which arguably isn't coming out too bad. Unfortunately, it's supposed to be a bit more of a gradual taper. Like, I got it to here, but this section right here was connected almost to this edge. So as you can see, with that right there, and then having to climb all the way up there, wasn't working too well. So I got an idea, and that was to essentially, let me see if I can find, well, this is the one I cut it from, actually. So what I did was, I found the spot where this taper kind of took place, and then cut it, and I'm trying to move it to behind this, so we basically get the mirror taper over here. But in doing so, what I think I want to do... Now see, this is the part where this taper is actually causing a bit of a problem. Because in my original concept sketch, this was a bit more squared. It wasn't quite so angled. And so then this is where the ring would come into play, was it was supposed to kind of like snap right into the square edge along a line, and then kind of spin out. I don't know if I'll be able to do that or not now because of the way this is, but what I'm going to try and do is cut this back to about here, and what I'm going to attempt, I don't know if it'll work, but what I want to attempt to do is essentially rotate this, and now that I'm looking at the bottom, I probably should do the same thing, but we'll worry about that later. We'll do it like this. And what we're going to try and do is kind of square this edge off and bring it down, is the idea. Now, in theory, I could actually shave off more of this to about here, I think. Let's double check. Where are you at? Yep, that's perfect. All right. So the reason I can do that is because we're basically going to grab this corner right here and wedge it right up against that edge piece. Now we could leave it, and now theoretically I'm wondering if this is going to be more work than it's going to end up paying off. So essentially what I did here, I guess, is I just brought it out, I rounded off the edge, made it come out one more, though I don't necessarily have to. Oh. Ooh. That's an interesting way to deal with this. Hold on, I'm going to make a copy of this, not that I don't have like a billion of them laying around already. But I'm gonna try something that I just now noticed, and we're gonna play around with it and see if it'll work. So, may have gotten a little bit carried away, but once again, stuff has happened. So, yeah. What I basically was looking at was, when I looked over here and realized I could cut this chunk out right about here and just use this edge, then it occurred to me, well, why do I even need to have this little jut part at all? Why not just have the angle there and then do another angle and another angle? So I ended up with this, which is, I think, pretty decent. But then another thought occurred to me, which was, well, I can do this, but this is a bit sharp if I want to blend into using more of the 2x1 ramps and stuff to create a more shallow angle. I like the shallow angles, but they're harder to work with. So then I came up with this one, which is essentially the same idea as this over here, but using the ramps to stretch out the angle a little bit, and I gotta say, I think I really like it. I think it looks cool. It is a little bit more elongated than the original concept design, but overall, in terms of fitting the design into the game, I think it works better. Then, something else occurred to me, which is why I made this duplicate over here. And that was, well, if I'm looking at this correctly, now that we've got this shape going on, I'm not sure that this bulge on the side here is even needed, or if I could just merge this to that. So that's what I wanted to try real quick before I actually kind of wrote this off. Oh, that's the wrong rotation. There we go. So if I were to bring this like so, would it... It would! It would line up with that. So, what we're going to do, since we've got this... Now, there is the aspect that... that this curve is still here, and I'd be narrowing it a little bit if I do what I'm thinking. Although, I don't technically have to mess with that part, I suppose. We're going to try it. We're going to try it. So let's just do it. So I need to grab this and cut it... Where is it? Cut it here, I guess. It's a little bit... Whoops-a-daisy. Meant to do that. Totally meant to do that, people. Don't panic. There's a copy over there. This is why I always copy everything, because I never know what I'm going to end up needing. So, my idea is this. Can I just run this along here and basically reach the same point? Now, it is a little bit less... doesn't stick out quite as much, but in some ways that might not be a bad thing. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and fill this up, if it can handle it. Come on. Oh, so many blocks. So many blocks all at one time. Bam! Alright, now, same basic principle here is we can cut all of this as well. That's not what I meant to do. Oops. This might actually take a minute if I have to snip all of these. That would be kind of annoying. Where did it go? Where'd you go? What happened here? Oh, this is the bottom. Okay. The bottom part's a little bit of a different height. Got it. I was kind of wondering what happened there. Let's go ahead and fill that in. Seriously though, where'd that other section go? Oh, there it is. I was gonna say, it's like I know there's another one around here. Alright, so you get the idea, is that I could actually cut this, it kind of ends up looking like just a bulge after you start looking at it. So that's why I wanted to try it this way. But this is apparently going to take a minute because it's not making this real easy to just snip and replace. Yeah, we're going to try it. I think it would look better without this chunk here. Phew. Okay. I have done a lot of work on this thing today. I know it probably doesn't seem like it, because all I've done is talk, show a couple of things, and cut everything else out, it seems like, this episode. But I've probably been working on this for well over a couple hours now. But I gotta admit, it's looking pretty nice. I like this. This is looking pretty cool, in my opinion. We're starting to get a really nice line going on, I think. Let me know what you guys think, but I think it's starting to really come together. The only issue I'm seeing is where to attach the ring. The ring looks like it might be the biggest issue because, like I said, in the original build, it was a bit more straight out and down. Not unlike the uniform bottom. The uniform bottom was about like the top of the original design, and then I kind of accidentally added this taper in. So, yeah, we could always add that in later, I suppose, if we really can't figure out how to add the ring to it, but I'll probably just modify the ring design a little bit and have, like, one anchor point there, one anchor point there, and have it just swivel out, rather than it being, because for those of you that may not quite get the picture, and if I'm being perfectly honest, I just don't feel like going through the process of editing, the video to have the thumbnail thing in there again. But basically, the original was supposed to do something like this. And this is probably going to be very difficult to do. And let's do a simple design where it starts doing something like this. I mean, you can kind of get that. That was supposed to be on the sides over here and wrap around, and it's still planning on it. It's going to basically be the living space, but as you can see here, it was supposed to be flat. Like, this was all flat, so it's supposed to just start here and wrap around and meet in the middle. But with this design, I might end up having to do something more akin to... yeah, this is a really bad example, but... something more like this, I guess, where it just kind of keeps staggering down until it hits the edge. I don't know. Well, I guess we'll have to cross that bridge when we get there, because quite frankly, without the original uniform shape on the top, I think this is the best shape we've come up with so far. So without that completely flat edge, which theoretically we could actually do. I could incorporate that in again, where all I would really have to do is start right about here on this level, chop that level off, and just kind of keep this pattern right here just going all the way up. That's really all I would have to do, and it would turn it into the uniform one, or the uniform bottom one down there that I showed at the beginning of the video. And if I did that, then the ring would fit as per it's supposed to, essentially. Because by the time you got to this top area, it would just be flat. I don't think I like that design as much, but let me know what you guys think. Personally, I think this hull over here is quickly becoming my new favorite. I like the line on it, I like the back taper, and I like that we got rid of that ugly merging together shape over there, right there, and we actually made it smooth. I really like that. Now it's starting to look kind of a bit more like a yacht, more than a Star Destroyer. So the next phase is going to be, where did I leave my thrusters? These guys right there. I know it's tough to see, actually. Okay, I tried. I was going to just go ahead and try and merge this shape here into our new shape here. It's working-ish, but I cannot, for the life of me, get this corner type matchup area to work right. I've tried a bunch of different things, as you can see. I was trying to keep the middle part equal and just bring it in and then walk it up, and I just cannot find a good way to do it. Now, in terms of minimalistic, like what's the minimum type thing that we'd need to do, it would have to look something like, yeah, this would have to go. So in terms of like absolute necessary kind of thing, it would probably look something like this. Now I don't know about this part, I was kind of filling it in just to experiment, but I'm not entirely convinced of that shape right there. Just once, I wish there would be like, can I do, no, it's either control or it's shift or control shift, but you can't do X, Y, and Z at the same time. That would be really, really useful. I don't know. Yep, that's a separate object now. Okay, so from this spot here, what would end up happening, I believe, if I've done my calculations correctly, let's see, it would actually look something, we gotta get this squared away here. I may not do the tips, I'm just gonna do the base ramps for now, just so we can get an idea of what it would look like. Let's go ahead and seal that off like that. And let's see, one more, maybe? Oh, I have that adaptive mode turned on. I do not like that mode. Alright, that's, yeah, that'll work. And then from there, it would look something like this. Is best guessed. Kind of just if I follow the block types and I don't actually try and do anything super creative, but I'm not a big fan of this if I'm gonna be honest. It's not really, oh my gosh, I've been playing this too long today. I'm going on like a couple hours or something like that. It's not going well. My controls are just all out of whack. Alright, now as to this, I guess we can just do this. Let's do this one. So this is kind of, like I said, the basic, if you were to just kind of follow the shapes kind of thing, you'd end up with something like this. Assuming I can rotate everything correctly. Why is it always the one direction that I want it to go is the one I can never figure out how to get it to do? I don't know if you guys have that problem or not, but I seem to. So it would look something like that, which I'm... Wow, okay, I don't have any light over here. Which I'm not a fan of. I don't like how it just cuts right in. I want to blend it to where you have a little bit of an angle out here and it kind of curves around. But I'm really not sure how to merge the two shapes together. But anyways, with that, I think we almost have the... I think those are going to be fighter hangars or something. I haven't decided what these are going to be, but... with that, we're going to wrap things up here for this episode. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. In the meantime, I hope you all enjoyed. If you did, leave a like, and I will see you all next time. Peace.